change creates opportunity. And I think that that's true for any business out there. And, there's a lot of noise, but there's always opportunities, and you just have to seek them out. And
so welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Michele, my extra special guest, Heather Luzzi. Heather is the district director of the Sacramento District Office for Small Business Administration. And I had the blessing of being the business coach to support the cohort last year for the SBA Thrive Group, which was a group of, and you can probably say it better than me, but a group of leaders, CEOs, that came together on their learning journey. And so SBA sponsored, they had cohorts learning. I think there were 8 modules total around all these different topics. What was really cool is we had the variety of different businesses and different leaders in the room. And people on the outside looking in might think, well, you need people that are in the same industry to come together. But the way this group came together and the conversations that they had and the learning they had and the way they challenged each other was freaking awesome. So I got the opportunity to meet Heather and work with Heather, and I appreciate your partnership, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast to chat, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. So I know you have a quote to kick us off with, and then we'll start the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michele. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, many, many blessings that I feel with the opportunity that you and I had. When you presented it to me about a quote, I kept going back and forth and back and forth. And the only thing that I can think just in today's environment is that change creates opportunity. And I think that that's true for any business out there. And, there's a lot of noise, but there's always opportunities, and you just have to seek them out. And that's my quote.
I love it. I think some of this stuff, because we have an intro call and stuff before a podcast. Some of the stuff we talked about was all the stuff that's happening in the environment now, right? So we're recording this in March of 2025. Your business, your organization is going through a lot. But what impressed me when you and I chatted is you weren't coming from this space of woe is me, woe is us, whatever's going on. But it's this opportunity to go, you know what? There's opportunities more now than ever for small businesses to succeed and thrive in this environment that we're in. And that to me is the game changer. When people can flip that and go, okay, this isn't a barrier, a roadblock, a place that we have to stop, we can't move further. But this is an opportunity to, number one, think differently and maybe step into spaces that we hadn't thought of before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, to your point, working for a federal agency, our administrator sits at the cabinet level. So SBA we've been around since 1953, and there's been different iterations of SBA. But at our core, our mission is solely to support entrepreneurship. Whether it be starting businesses, assisting businesses in growing or expanding into new markets, or gaining access to capital, or God forbid, assistance after a disaster occurs. So it is kind of a tenuous time in America right now. Simply because of everything going on. There's a lot of noise out there. And, we hear so much of the negatives. You turn on the news or listen to the radio, and you always get those negative sound bites. And you know what? It's, I think, our job as leaders to be the positive voice in the room.
So I have a question for you, because when I think about it, I think what struck me, right? Because you were the Wikipedia for SBA for the group. And I remember you had all this information. I'm sitting here thinking, I was in the room going, I had no idea these resources were available. So when you think about leaders, businesses, people, and when you and I talk, there's a lot of leaders, and leaders don't require, by the way, people to report to you. We lead ourselves before anything else. But there's a lot of humans, leaders in the world that have a day job, if you will, a 9 to 5, a W-2 job. They're working for somebody else and they have a side hustle, i.e., they're self-employed. In
Sure.
that case, what can you highlight just some resources, Heather, because I know you know them, that people
Sure.
may be aware of that can help people through, especially the times that we're dealing with now, when people are looking through this lens of everything, because they say it like that in absolutes, everything is being taken away. What are your thoughts?
So I have many,
Okay.
but let's start at those resources. So
Okay.
that's something that unfortunately the general public doesn't realize the resources that are available to them at no cost,
Hmm.
because truly they're already prepaid by the tax dollars.
Hmm.
So the resources of the U.S. Small Business Administration, of our resource partner network that are funded by SBA. So
Hmm.
our small business development centers, our women's business centers, SCORE, which is a volunteer network of mentors and counselors,
Hmm.
then our veterans business outreach centers. And those resources, those collective resources, with SBA really are the boots on the ground that go and do the business walks or sit on business advisory councils or assist a business in, okay, what type of a structure do you want? How are you thinking about this, and this along the way? And kind of giving that reality check, if you will.
Hmm.
And it's just an unknown. So without those boots on the ground, without platforms such as yours,
Hmm.
with the leadership sound bites, people just simply don't know that these things exist.
Yeah.
And I think like with all of us, you don't know what you don't know. But when that somebody says something and that light goes on, seek out those resources. They are truly invaluable.
Hmm.
And again, no cost. And there's a menagerie of things that we can assist with, whether it be coaching or mentoring or accessing capital or accessing federal contracting opportunities. That's a
Hmm.
huge area that's really untapped for small businesses.
Hmm.
And there's opportunity. Opportunity abounds. So
You know,
yeah.
it's interesting. I love because the word the phrase, not one word, but I think that the phrase that keeps going through my head that I think it's important for us to know, because in the news we hear a lot of the negative stuff that we're hearing is with larger organizations for the most part, or people that maybe have taken advantage, or um, there is an opportunity for small business to step in and to be able to do stuff and support things. I think one of the things you talked about when we were in the room, which I loved, is a lot of times when you've got solopreneurs or small businesses with 3 to 5 people or one or whatever that looks like, they may not on their own be enough to go for a federal contract or a government contract on something, but they can join with other businesses
You
and
know
go
what?
together over that contract
Absolutely.
with this partnership. And to me, that's an awesome thing that I never would have thought of, but I remember you
Mhm.
sharing that. And so those kind of things for me give people hope into being able to step into something else. You know, you maybe love what you're doing during the day and love your side hustle and don't know a clear path of how to, grow it, get more about it. And I think what I loved is you really are an advocate, and not blowing smoke, but you're an advocate for these leaders in this thing to really help, guide them, shepherd them along,
Mhm.
so that they can navigate something that can be confusing. Because if I'm in business, maybe the thing I'm great at is what I'm in business for, not the rest of it.
Mhm. No, that's a very, very valid point. And again, you look at kind of the business landscape, and 99.9% of the businesses in the US are considered small. You
Mm.
hear about all the big businesses because they get all the accolades and the news clips and the sound bites and all of that. But our little mom and pop shops down the street, the Uber driver, the coach, the business coach,
Yeah.
they are they have thriving businesses or what
Mhm.
could be thriving businesses, and
Yeah.
we are step in to assist them in these different areas. With respect to those contracting opportunities, the federal government purchases everything that you can possibly think of.
Mhm.
Furniture, cell phones, water glasses, catering, janitorial services, as well as big buildings or, road work or bridges or, just a menagerie of different things. So
Mhm.
even those small little guys that just have a couple of people in their shop have the opportunity to partner with even a larger business. And let me tell
Mm.
you of this. Even if those big businesses can't qualify under that small business set aside program,
Mhm.
and in the federal government, there's 23% of all federal work that is set aside specifically for small businesses.
Mm.
If that small business doesn't feel comfortable or they don't have the capital, whether it be human capital or the money to
Mm.
fund them to get into this job until they get paid from the government, they can
Right.
partner with this large business who then also gets the benefit of
Mm.
getting this particular contract, which they wouldn't have had that opportunity had they
Mm.
not partnered. So we have a mentor protege program, which is essentially a partnership program
Yeah.
where the mentor is teaching the protege kind of that, how to do business with the federal government,
Oh, wow.
or a joint venture opportunity. And again, those are both contracting focused, but that just kind of gives you an idea. There is so much opportunity that really is untapped,
Yeah.
and it's my job to get the word out there.
I love it. So how, I'm curious, and I know I was with you for several months as we went through the program. How do people get a hold of and tap into this opportunity? Where do they go? How do they research? And I'll put information after you talk about it too, but I'll put information in the description of the actual podcast. But what would you say to people now?
So I can tell you to go to SBA's website. It's just sba.gov,
Okay.
sba.gov. There's a lot of information on there. What I would say further is that you could view that information and see what you can glean from it, but
Hmm.
it's really in your best interest to come to an event or to do online training. We have these online trainings on the SBA website. It's called our learning platform, and it
Hmm.
kind of gives you an introduction to the different facets of SBA and where we assist small businesses. And with that, and calling our office or reaching out to one of our resource partners, we can hold your hand through the process.
Hmm.
So we tend to get a lot of applications for our contracting programs, which is great. But what I want to really emphasize is that please do not pay to have somebody help you with this
Hmm.
application. We can do that. I just spoke to one of my staff members earlier today who said, oh my gosh, a company just paid $35,000 for another company to help
No,
them with this application process.
no.
And it just makes me so mad because there are free resources out there, but this entity had no idea that they could go it alone or walk hand in hand with the SBA or one of our resource partners to get that assistance. They would have ended up at the same place, but they would have had 35,000 more in their bank account.
My, that is not
I
inexpensive. It's
know.
not like, oh, it's $150.
Right. Right. No, that's a lot of money. That's probably an extreme circumstance. I will
Yeah,
say
but
that,
still, it's
but it's
happening.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
And then conversely, SBA provides capital. So we are not a direct lender. We do not loan businesses money other
Right.
than in the times of disasters. Then we work hand in hand with the
Hmm.
businesses. But how we assist in that capital space is that we provide a loan guarantee to the lender. So
Hmm.
whether it be a bank or a credit union or an intermediary, which, dealing with smaller loans,
Yeah.
the SBA can finance or guarantee anywhere from $500 to $5.5 million.
Hmm.
And what service this provides to a small business is that it lets that lender say yes
Yeah.
when they typically would have to say no, whether it be because the business doesn't have the experience or doesn't have the down payment or,
Hmm.
doesn't have the financial capacity.
Hmm.
Where we shine is in that access to capital
Yeah.
guarantee program. And again, it's a partnership, a public-private partnership with our lending partners. So
Yeah.
that's really a great program.
It came to mind for me. It's almost like when you first establishing credit and your parents co-sign a loan for you. And it's like, you don't have credit, you need to have credit, you've got all the stuff, but it's like no one's going to give you that credit unless somebody else goes, okay, if they flake, I'm on the hook for it. I'm gonna assume this is true, but because I know it's not good to assume, I'm assuming that it's not every business that walks through the door to apply for a loan. You're gonna go, yep, we're gonna guarantee. There is certain criteria that needs to be met in order for the SBA to guarantee that loan. But to
Mhm.
your point, that guarantee, if you didn't have it, odds are you wouldn't get financed if you were just on your own.
Exactly. So, where I find challenges in this area is that small businesses don't realize about the SBA programs. And
Mm.
so the first thing that businesses ask for when they come through our front door or call me is I need money for my business. I need money
Mhm.
to either support or sustain my business, or I
Mhm.
need money to grow.
Mhm.
So, with that, it's okay. So, when do you need the money? Well, I have to have it tomorrow. Okay, well, that's a problem. It's a problem, first of all,
Yeah.
because you didn't prepare. You have to be prepared, right? And what I find, Michele, is that, if you're watching TV or listening to the radio, these lenders come on, so-called lenders,
Um,
come on and say, we can finance your business and we'll put the money in your bank account tomorrow. And,
yeah.
minimal paperwork, so on and so forth. Well, guess what? You're going to pay for that loan.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to pay big time for that loan. I can tell you two instances just in the last several months that we've had. One business did that um, because they needed to make their payroll, and they had inventory that couldn't be shipped until they made payment on the inventory.
Hmm.
So they panicked and got one of those online loans, and quick, easy application on the internet. They got the money the next day. Guess what? At 144% interest.
Ah,
Ah,
a
to me,
hundred
that's
and forty.
usury.
That's legal?
It unfortunately, yes, because of the
Oh,
way that those
wow.
institutions are regulated. They are not federally regulated or even state
Uh,
regulated with for finance. And
they're
that's
just in the loan
where
shark category.
exactly it is
Oh,
absolutely the loan shark
wow.
category. It's like the payday lender down the street, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a good thing. So
No,
a
you
bit of
can't dig out of that. I mean, that's crazy.
it is crazy. But we've refinanced those types of loans, and at least we're putting the businesses back in a better position.
Yeah.
So with SBA, we regulate the amount of funds that are the amount of interest that can be charged to a borrower.
Okay.
And our lending partners play very well in that arena.
Hmm.
They're still making their profit. The business
Hmm.
is still able to afford that debt.
Yeah.
But with those types of online lenders, they're not required to disclose an annual percentage rate or
Hmm.
APR.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is. And when they're talking to a borrower, this particular borrower with 144%, they're like, no, no, it's 12%. I know that's high, but it was cheaper than my credit card. And I'm like,
5%
no,
per
it's
month.
not.
Per month.
Yes, 12% per 30 days, not per APR or
Wow.
annual percentage rate. So
Wow.
when you calculate it, it's 144. Just awful, awful.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it's okay if you only use it for a couple days and then
Well,
you
I
can pay
wouldn't
it
even say
off.
that. I would say no. If you absolutely have to, use your credit card.
Yeah,
Family and friends, whatever you need. But I
yeah,
truly believe do not go down that road.
yeah. So we've talked about small business.
Hmm?
And clearly what I do falls into the small business category. Okay.
Sure.
But I'm curious, what's the top end of it? I mean, so is there a range? What do we look at to know whether or not you're small or not
Oh,
small business in America?
that's a great, great question. We tend to get that a lot. So just say in the manufacturing sector, we look
Hmm.
at number of employees. So a
Okay.
manufacturer can have 500 employees and still qualify as small.
Wow.
Yeah, there are other sectors, and I can't name them off the top of my head, but there's other sectors that could go up to 1,000 or even 1,500 employees and still qualify as
Oh,
small. The way that we look at traditional, small businesses, as we look at a 3-year average, and
okay.
that 3-year average cannot exceed 16 million in revenue. So
Average being annual revenue?
annual, correct.
That's a
So
lot of revenue to
it
be like a
is.
small business, which means that you could have just started, you know, 10 times over, 100 times over, and then gone up again, and your 3-year average is still there, but you're making, I'm just going to make stuff up now, 40 million, right, in the current
Right.
year. That's impressive because then it could take you to where you can continue your growth trajectory if you need
Absolutely.
additional capital to do that. That's pretty
Exactly.
freaking cool.
It is. And that's what I'm saying that from SBA standpoint, when we look at it, small businesses, 99.9% of them in the country are
Yeah,
considered small. And
yeah.
what we look for those sector codes are the North American Industry Classification System
Okay.
or NAICS codes.
Right.
And that's how we gauge your size standard for a small business.
Is that information online too, Heather? For
Yes,
people to,
yes,
okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Yes. A simple
Um,
Google or again, SBA's website has that
yeah,
available.
and this is terrible to say, but I'm going to say it because I'm just freaking honest. I have not been to the SBA website. I was interacting with everything through, well, through you and then through an independent contractor, outside contractor that was acting, and facilitating the whole program. Um, what other words of advice would you have for leaders who are in that space that are in the, small business that, maybe it's one of the most overlooked or a frequently overlooked opportunity? Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Well, I think, small businesses, it's very, very hard. First of all, it's not for the weak of heart or the
No,
faint of
that's no,
heart.
no, it's no, yeah,
It's
because
hard work.
well, it's so funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and I talked to him about when you go out on your own. In fact, it was this morning I had a phone call with a physician leader who just retired. And he said he's been retired for 3 months now. He's still doing, his foundation stuff and everything. He said, but I didn't realize how good I had it. I said,
Ah,
well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I had someone to book my appointments. I could call IT if I had questions, I could call. And so there is typically in a larger organization, a department or a function to do those things. And when it's just you, the,
mhm.
the upside, you're the one doing it. The upside is we're in the freaking world of AI right now.
Sure.
And there's stuff that we're going to be able to have functionality that we never did before that took us forever to do things. But yeah, I mean, there aren't typically, unless you're at the higher end of the small business range, it's you.
Well, exactly. And just, I guess the bit of advice that I would have for
Yeah.
those leaders is please don't go it alone. First of all, you cannot be an expert at whatever you're doing, and whether
Hmm.
it is making widgets or coaching,
Hmm.
you can't be all things to all people.
Mm-mm.
You, in a business, you have to be, the janitor, the accountant, the attorney, everything under
All
the
of it.
sun. And
Yes.
there are so many resources out there, and you need to align yourself with reliable partners that can fill
Hmm.
those gaps for you so that
Yeah.
you can continue to do what you do best. And I would just emphasize that point. there's, again, the AI stage. We are in kind of this really strange space these days. I mean, I'm old, right?
You're
So,
not okay, stop.
well,
Can you back away from that? Okay, so I'm
hey,
gonna
you know
call
what?
BS.
I own
I'm
it.
gonna
I am
I'm gonna
proud
call
of it.
BS. You're not 20 anymore, okay?
Not 20 anymore.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. But I didn't grow up with this stuff. I mean,
No,
my gosh, we had a typewriter. I had to learn how to use a computer. And now we're
yeah,
getting into this whole other
yeah,
just fascinating technology that really is so cool.
hmm,
I think it's a blast and I enjoy learning about it.
yeah,
And I'm hopeful that I'll be able to embrace that. But I think for the business owners out there, this just creates more opportunity. It's
yeah,
more opportunity with AI to engage in, having an automated uh, uh, process for
yeah.
one of those facets
Well, I
that
mean, my
you,
God, you
as
can
the
set up. So
entrepreneur, have to take on.
I'm in business. We started a partnership with another group that we met doing AI consulting. And it's interesting in that space because I mean, it's rapid fire change, right? So it's like we're not about to keep up with the Microsofts and the Googles and all that space. But
Mhm.
the reality of it is there's stuff that's just right there that we're able to do that doesn't take it's not a massive learning curve, but it's understanding first looking at where are those things that just I can't stand doing. Or small businesses, here's one of the challenges because my daughter does digital marketing, social media stuff. She said, Mom, you can do a campaign. The phone rings, the solopreneur or the entrepreneur, maybe he's got a team of 5 or 10, he or she, they're not at the phone. So when the phone rings and people call to be able to follow up because you've got this ad and no one's there to answer it, that's a problem.
Sure.
So, you can do AI agents and have stuff now to where the AI agent can be the initial point of contact. They can, you've got this knowledge base that you've upskilled this agent with, right? Because it's like all the information that people need. You can develop the grid of here's questions, here's the appropriate answer, right? So you upskill your agent. And if people want to book an appointment, the agent then is not automatically, can be connected to your calendar and schedule an appointment. So,
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden it's like you can be out doing the stuff you're doing because most leaders in that space are working their business, not, they're not working on it, they're working in it, which is the
Right.
thing we recommend that they don't do. But they are. And so now you've got this relatively simple way to go, you mean I can do marketing and advertising and somebody else can at least screen the call? Yes.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Stuff like that's just, I freaking love it.
Uh-huh. It's
So, and
amazing.
then we can do stuff that we love doing.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I
Well,
think it's
and the
awesome.
stuff that you love doing is probably the stuff that you are the best at doing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And why not give yourself that joy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that came to mind for me, Heather, when you were talking, and I could be remembering it wrong, my brain scrambles it. But I remember being in the room, we're talking, and that the SBA or through SCORE, through any of those, can help with people negotiating leases of brick and mortar buildings. Okay, so I'm not remembering that wrong.
No, not at all. Our resource partner network is vast in
Yes.
their capabilities, and they can help with everything from drafting out an idea that somebody has about a business,
Mm-hmm.
to creating a business plan, to getting your business ready for a lender to provide
Mm-hmm.
capital, to connecting you with attorneys or advisors who can
Mm-hmm.
then, or real estate folks who can look at those leases or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
Really, it's plentiful, the amount or the facets in the work
Yeah.
that is done.
And the thing that I'll say, right, because I think what happens too a lot of times is business owners may be reluctant to talk to a stranger, to actually show them their dirty laundry, right?
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
oh, it's got to be perfect or it's got to be whatever. The sense that I have is come together and have a real conversation, but find out, say, hey, this is where I'm at. Do I stand a chance? What recommendations would you have? And I think that kind of partnership and relationship and that resource is invaluable because you may be the first one in your family to fill in the blank, right? Name it whatever it is. And maybe you don't have people in your circle that have that experience. And you may be reluctant to tap somebody else because, well, maybe it's not big enough, good enough, I don't have enough, whatever. And then I don't want people to look at me and go, oh, you'll never qualify.
So that's a great point, Michelle. And, I will first of all say that any of the conversations or ideas, prototypes, financials, anything is all confidential.
Mm,
So whether it be through the agency, through the SBA directly, or
hmm
through our resource partner network, it's all confidential.
hmm
So you can, talk about those things. And quite honestly, sometimes you may be matched with an advisor who you're just like, okay, I just don't necessarily align with this person.
Yeah,
I don't have that connection that I
yeah,
feel like I need because I'm talking about my baby here.
yeah,
And you can always ask for another advisor.
yeah.
It's like no harm, no foul. We want to make certain that you are getting the resources and the assistance and support that
hmm
you need to grow. Because
Yeah.
guess what? Small businesses grow economies, they grow our
hmm
neighborhoods. This is what, our country is built upon.
hmm
So, and I will tell you some of the success stories. I know you didn't ask me about this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
No, but it's
Um,
okay. I love this.
Some of the success stories that have come from SBA are really amazing. So, Apple Computer,
Yeah,
Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak started in the garage. Guess where they got their funding?
I love that.
U-Haul, the big U-Haul moving company.
Really?
Yes. Federal Express. Federal Express is an SBA
Wow.
business. What else? God, there's a ton of them. Office Depot, Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Really?
Who doesn't love Ben and Jerry's?
Oh my God. See, that's
Chobani
cool.
yogurt.
Yeah. Oh,
I could go
really?
on and on and on.
See, I think
So,
that's cool because at some point when they surfaced, we knew them as larger already. And I think
absolutely.
that's a great call out is to go, they could have been on the trajectory of whatever. Um, but I love those and like I said, I had no clue, Heather. I remember sitting in the room in person the first time. We brought all the leaders together and it was introductions and you talked about SBA and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's right here at my doorstep and I didn't even know it.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the view and the encouragement for people during these challenging times, because it is loaded with opportunity. I think right now the challenging part, and I've mentioned this, when we've been in the room together, is, we have to do something radically different than how we have been doing in our government, our US, you can't maintain that kind of debt. I mean, it's craziness.
Exactly.
Um,
If it were a business, we would end up in bankruptcy.
yes.
So,
Oh, hands
yeah,
down.
yeah.
So this change has to happen.
Mhm.
I love the reframing of it to where, in that change are tons of opportunity to step in and support, at a level that you've never thought of supporting before. Or if you can be a mentor, reach out to apply for that. Or if you're just starting out and think it's too late for me, I'm going to say BS.
Right.
Okay. So it's just exciting and I appreciate the encouragement. Um,
Absolutely.
so, question just as we wrap up, what one or two things out of all the stuff that we talked about, do you want people to walk away with?
I think, again, don't go it alone.
Yeah.
You have a support mechanism and system. We're a phone call away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. I totally agree with that. I'd reinforce that. I'm reminding myself of that as well. And you all, like you said, through the partnership or anything else, you can be thought partners for people because maybe they don't know what they don't know. And it's like, it's not a waste of time to reach out and find out what's going on and what the opportunities are. I will put contact information and all that stuff in the description for the podcast. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been Leadership Soundbites with Heather and Michele. And please like, share, subscribe, and I look forward to next time. Thank you.
Stories yet untold.